triggering change, one heartbeat at a time. Battle for Freedom. Hello, everyone. This is Watson Prene from Battle for Freedom on Mojo50 Radio, and I'm glad that you guys have decided that you wanted to be part of this program and you wanted to join early today. Well, there's early in the afternoon. It doesn't matter what time of the time you're listening to this. I'm your host, Watson Prene from Battle for Freedom on Mojo50 Radio, and I appreciate every last one of you deciding that you want to be part of this program today. As I sit here talking to you about the Silence of the Lambs, short-circuited Americans. So good morning, every last one of you who wants to be part of this. I share this because of the fact that I've been trying to wrestle my mind around understanding why it is that people want to fight, people don't want to fight. People don't want to accept the information. People do want to accept the information. We have this really screwed up position where America is in today, where, you know, it's whether our politics, whether it doesn't matter where we are, our color, our ethnicity. For some strange reason, we have a problem of reasoning and recognizing the problems that are affecting us as American citizens. And I want to talk about that today. My website's www.battle4freedom.com. Also, I want you to go to mojo50.com because of the fact that this is the way that you decide that you're going to connect. You can also go to facebook.com/Mojo50 Radio, Mojo50 Radio, and you can decide to interact with many people like Lisa, Mitchell, Linda, Carolyn, and Lep. These are among many of the people who take an opportunity to join and be part of the program. And I say good morning to you. I say good morning to everyone and good afternoon. Again, no matter what time of the day, I'm glad that you're taking the time to listen to what we're going to be talking about today. So, here it is. I wanted you to hear one of the sponsors this morning, and you'll understand where I'm going to go with this because I'm appreciative of New Life Holistic, but I think this is going to beg us to revisit them and you all to reach out to them all the more as a result of what I'm going to cover today. Check this out. This is very, very interesting on... Does your mind seem like it often shuts down before it even starts? Sounds like you need to detox to improve your health in body, mind, and spirit. I'd like to tell you about New Life Holistic. It is an amazing therapy process that uses neurofeedback and biofeedback for many issues that ails everyone. New Life's method and approach to health, balance, energy, and vitality is what sets it apart from anything you have experienced ever before. Call 1-833-4-BIO-LIFE and tell them Watson from Battle for Freedom had sent you. One more thing. Give them the code Mojo50 and save $50 off of your first session. The consult is free. New Life Holistic. New Life Holistic. I want you to consider that as you are going through this. I didn't give you the graphic. This is the graphic that you would probably see. Those of you who are watching on social media, you can understand this as you're trying to get your mind to understand everything that's going on here. New Life Holistic. You'll see that symbol in the top left corner as you work with Anthony Malchiotti. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Paige, for joining Pastor P. Pastor P, I love that. That's too funny. As we get into this thing here, and as we sit here talking about this, folks, I don't know. I think people have talked about this already. I want you to see a couple of images here. For those of you who are listening via iHeartRadio, I apologize that you can't see here. But my cover image has 3 images here. Of course, when I say Silence of the Lambs, you know I have to show Dr. Lecter, masked up and pushed as this psycho. And then, but you have an American soldier. You have a revolutionary soldier to the far left. You have the Dr. Hannibal Lecter, and on the far right, you have the robot from the movie Short Circuit that came out in the 1990s. I'm sure if you look at it now, you probably call it completely cheesy, but work with me and tell me how I'm going to get through this, and we talk about this, because I think that there's a problem where there's a lot of people who are angry right now because no one wants to fight back for the apparent thievery that took place, that's taking place during our election process. And I guess a lot of us are angry right now because of the fact that people aren't wanting to get engaged. But you have to understand something. I was meeting with my buddy Scott. He sometimes comes in on one of my best friends, Scott. He comes onto the timeline. We met last night. And we had some good discussions as we were kind of like working through, both of us, feeling a little bit on the short-circuited side. That, you know, there's this problem that is affecting us, that there's so much that we want to get accomplished, but we're running into this problem where it seems like no matter what we try, no matter what we try, no matter what we do, we're not fully completed. My boss, when we have our meetings with our team every Wednesday, one of the things he's done for the last 7 months is he always asks us, how are you guys doing? Just doing this check-in just to make sure that everybody's perfectly fine. And you know what? And people, when they ask you, right, when they ask you that question, how are you doing in light of COVID-19, when people ask you, how do you feel in light of it? Most of you are like, yeah, I just want this thing to be over and go from there. But I don't think people have really thought this through. One of my friends, a friend of the family, she sent this really interesting article, and I think I began to tell you something about it last week, but I don't think, again, I'm putting this in the timeline for those of you who are going to be following this on Facebook. This is really key when you look at why this is very important. This topic called ACEDA. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. ACEDIA, the lost name for the emotion that we're feeling right now. Because the reason why I'm getting into this, the whole idea of us being short-circuited, is, and this is my buddy and I, we're trying to wrestle through this and try and make sense, because I think it doesn't only affect us, but I think it affects tons of us. And I think and not only did it affect us, it's only amplified itself as a result of the lockdown, as a result of COVID, as a result of the fear that has been pushed down on us of where we believe that we need to be right now because of all of the nightmare of COVID, lockdown, isolation, and the negative effects that it has on us. And one of the things that we're thinking about this here is, okay, so when I talk about, I used to go to school for electrical engineering. So, there were like two types of circuits. There was a series circuit where pretty much everything just went in a series. Just imagine yourself a box, and you're looking at the perimeter, you're looking at the borders of the box, and you could throw things on that border that basically had the parts of the circuit, and there would be power, and you'd have a resistor or different things that affected how the power would flow throughout that circuit. And then you run into a situation where you would also, then there's like the series circuit, and then there's a parallel circuit. So the best way to help you understand a parallel circuit is, imagine you see wrought iron fences. And there's no special design to them. Or even, let's think of the when you are walking through your house, and there may be a railing in your house, maybe on the second floor, that keeps you from falling over and right down to the first floor. But you think about the spindles that are in between the rails that you go to, that connect and keep the fence together, or the rail together to keep you from falling over. They're parallel. And so what happens is power flows, so that if one of those rails, let's say one of the rails broke, there's still all the other rails that should keep you from falling off, unless it's something small. A small child might actually go through the one rail that's missing. Ideally, the circuit never stops. It keeps going, although there could be some challenges with the idea that one of the rails broke. Well, I want you to consider, and I want us to consider, the fact that for many of us have unfortunately had broken rails, or we have broken circuits, because we have been so wired to do so much. Before COVID, we have run into this situation where we had a routine. We were at work, we were driving. Some of us hated the drive. If you were in New York, you hated the drive coming out from out on the island, jumping on the LIE, and then basically possibly looking at the BQE or whatever different highway that you were on. You were stuck, you were rubbernecking, back-to-back traffic. I remember in New York from 5 to 7 to 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning, and you see people who were jumped on the highway you jumped on the road, and it would take them 2-3 hours that they'd sit there back to bumper traffic. You see it in LA, you see it in Chicago, you see it in major cities where people decide that they want to be on them. And as tedious and as annoying as those things were, people, it was a routine. It's what people did. For those of us, we had our entertainment, we had our sports, we knew that springtime was we got back into baseball. Basketball was pretty much about finishing up. Even in our entertainment level, there was areas of which we want to get back to routine because of the fact that there were these series circuits, there were these cuts in our habits, there was these, and it wasn't just cuts. You're talking about that these were precision surgical strikes that basically shut down the routines and the patterns that we've established in our minds. And so, kind of like if those of you who haven't seen the movie Short Circuit, here was this robot that was created, and it was a companion to one of these individuals, and Halle Sheedy was one of the characters in the movie, and the robot got hit, and then all of a sudden it went from this friendly robot to a robot berserk and crazy, doing whatever it wanted because of the fact that one of its circuits were broken in the process. So because you have to understand, in those paths, if it's a series circuit and there's a short in a series circuit, there's no power. If you let me see if I can better help you understand how this works, as because of the fact that the shutdown was basically imagining a series circuit, just a box, and you're looking at the outside perimeter of the box, you're looking at the border, and this shutdown cut a hole in that box, so the box was no longer connected. It affected economies, it affected businesses, people losing their homes and things like that, because there are some people, some businesses that are detrimentally, they need our patronage. When we think about AMC and many of these other movie theaters that are shutting themselves down because of the fact that there are people who worked in the movie industry who were dependent on us being there. When you think about hair salons, massage places, everything like that shut down because of the fact that not just shut down for the shutdown, but are closed now because of the fact that bills couldn't be paid and they lost everything. So there's the severing. Now, when you look at, again, with a parallel circuit, you actually have energy, you have electricity still flowing. So there's still something going on, even though it will hobble, it will function, not as efficient as it would if the whole circuit was uninterrupted. But here it is, it's not working right. Hey, Curtis, thank you for being part and joining with this. And Sarah, thank you for being part of this as well. So as I'm sitting here and looking at this, many of us right now, if you're taking extra medication to deal with this lockdown, if you're taking extra medication to deal with this lockdown, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I'm going to let you know that the medication isn't going to help. You're probably overly anxious. Again, go to my buddy's sermon this past Sunday, Andy Lee at Crossroad Community Church, and talks about the whole idea of dealing with anxiety. Of course, I'm always going to tell you that the number one medicine for dealing with anxiety is the Word of God. Can't get around it. And this is the way that you recover from this and make certain that everything is working perfectly fine. Why? Why do I say to reconnect with the Word of God? Why do I say to get back into God's holy Word? It's because of the fact that you're dealing with the author. You're dealing with the Creator. You're dealing with the person who has creative license. You're dealing with the person who holds the what's the word for it? Not trade. Yeah, the trademark for creating humans. I mean, we may have our contributions to creating humanity, but the blueprint for this is God, reconnecting with Him and asking him. Y'all don't want to. You don't want to believe it. You keep thinking that this is overly simplistic. You're thinking, Watson, you're just this uber Christian person, and we're just tired of you constantly talking about the Word of God. Listen, if you don't get back in contact and communication with the author and creator of life, then you're going to run into some problems. And the reason why I say this is they're going to try and tell you that the medication is what's going to basically bring you back. It's going to reconnect all the wires and everything like that. Honestly, to tell you the truth, I think that the medication is rotting out the wires and rotting out the connection so that they can't be reconnected. They can't be soldered back on. They cannot. The circuit board is broken, and the medication is rotting out the leads and rotting out the connection points on the circuit board so that you can't focus correctly. You have to understand that we have me and my buddy, again, like I said, I want you to do me a favor. This is homework assignment. Yeah. Watson's giving me a homework assignment, a Battle for Freedom. Yes, I am. And here's the reason why. I want you to basically get your cup of American Pride Roasters coffee, the official coffee of America from Mojo 5 Radio. Go to AmericanPrideRoasters.com. You can get Watson's White Chocolate. You can get so many other different versions that are available to you that you can enjoy from this company, because if you need the coffee, you need that experience of just keeping your mind awake as you're in the process of this. Don't use it as a crutch, but enjoy your Java as you basically start taking out a pen and paper. And I want you to write down what your routine was prior to COVID. Prior to the shutdown, I want you to start listing what were your activities? What were the things that you loved doing? And I'm saying get detailed. Monday through Friday from time up to time down. And even if you were just sitting there watching and streaming and everything like that, I want you to start listing the things that you did. What occupied your time? Now, remember, I keep saying, and I still wholeheartedly believe to this reality that for most of us, we had this routine, but God was telling us, be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. As we sit here and we look at how God is reorganizing our thoughts and so much more. Now, once you put that list of what you did prior to COVID, now I want you to make a second list. That second list is what you're doing now. What you're doing now, and I'm talking about not Monday through Friday. I'm saying Sunday through Saturday. On that first chart, Sunday through Saturday, as you put down what it was you're doing. Now I want you to put Sunday through Saturday, even on what you're doing now or what you are not doing. What's occupying those gaps in those areas where you just don't feel like you have anything to do. You have no sense of purpose. You're trying to make sense of what's going on here, okay? And the reason why I'm asking you to do this is because of the fact that I want you to start recognizing the gaps that are in there. You probably didn't talk about it. You probably never addressed it. You probably never considered the fact that you now have all this extra time and you're trying to figure out exactly what you're supposed to do. You have all this extra freedom. You're probably spending more time at home than you have probably in a long time. In the last 6 months, you've probably spent more time at home because of COVID than you spent in the last 6 years combined. You probably spent more up until COVID. You probably spent less time at home combined than you had in the last 6 months. And now your mind, you have to figure out a way. How do I process this information? How do I even move forward and understand? There's been broadcasts before, not only myself, but on Mojo 50 Radio, mojo50.com/schedule. See the different programs that are available that you can pay attention and you can listen. I'm sure Brad Staggs and Ron, they had someone who was on the Daily Mojo that comes on at 8 a.m. in the morning, Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. I'm sure there's some psychiatrist, psychologist, or mind guru covered this of what I'm talking. So this isn't new. So, okay, you have your chart of what you did. You have the chart of what you're doing now. And there's going to be a third chart, because what you're going to do is you have to look at what you were doing and what you did. And you have to create this third chart that's actually going to start filling the areas where there is no activity. Now, again, I'm not talking about this whole idea of a Martha mentality, because we like to just move. we like to do things. I want to have a checklist that I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. Well, the here's again. Thank you, Andy, for the you're talking about this on Sunday. I don't know if you've heard of the Martha Mary situation. Mary was, Mary was the one who was worshiping at the feet of Christ, and Martha was the one who was constantly busy, 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 busy. Martha was the type A personality, and she had to keep going. She had to have things filled up her schedules to make sure that she was doing everything that she needed to do. That meant that she accomplished something at that moment, at that time, at that day, or at that year. I don't know. Maybe they had those Franklin planners all the way back in there. It was probably just a Jerusalem planner, for the type A personality people who needed to constantly be working at things. But I believe that in this extra time that God has afforded you, if you have not built extra time on, rekindling that love with your spouse, if you have not taken advantage of rekindling even that time with your children, then there's a problem. I mean, one of the things I've been wanting to do for the longest time is get through the Chronicles of Narnia. Because if we watched the movies many times, but there's something else about reading the Chronicles of Narnia to your kids. My girls are 4, 6, and 8, and it's amazing too, because we started this I think a couple months ago of reading through the Chronicles of Narnia. We read The Magician and His Nephew, and then we read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, because we're reading this as in the volume, the 7-volume work that we're going through. When we read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe second. And now, mind you, there were characters that they had already seen all of the 3 movies made by Disney, and I remember that many of the characters stuck in their minds. They picked their favorite characters already. But as we sat here going through and reading the book, it's just been amazing. It's just been this amazing thing of watching my girls' minds turn on as we go from book to book, and they know that there are certain characters that are moving in and out of the books, and you're waiting to see when the things they're gonna pick up, and you're gonna sit here, you're gonna laugh, and you're gonna just chuckle. And so we're in book 4 right now. We're in Prince Caspian. So we're reading Prince Caspian now. We're about 29 pages before it's done. We usually read this, within 30 minutes to 45 minutes before the girls go to sleep. And it's interesting because of the fact that the book before Prince Caspian is The Horse and His Boy, The Horse and His Boy. And towards the end, one of the obstinate characters gets converted into a donkey, and his name is Rabbadash. And they call him Rabbadash the ridiculous. And we're sitting here, we're in Prince Caspian, we're talking about these different we are talking about these different characters that were in there. And at one point they thought that I was talking about Rabbadash, a donkey, and Rabbadash in the next book. And, my 4-year-old, who she is just a busybody, she is just something else. She cracks me up. And she said something that completely blew me away. Because as we're all sitting here laughing, I'm like, yeah, I could see where you would think that I was talking about Rabbadash. And my 4-year-old, who's the one who's just really busy, the 6 and the 8-year-old, they're usually sitting there intently quiet. 4-year-old, she's rolling all over mommy because she's, sometimes she's ready, sometimes she's like, whatever. And she said, Rabbadash the ridiculous. She just said it just plainly, matter of fact, and it blew me away because of the fact that I realized that in my 4-year-old, the circuits are connecting. The leads are connecting, and my 4-year-old is remembering everything I talk about, because I don't just read it like, you hear my voice and you think, oh my goodness, he's like so dry eyes. Deep, sexy Barry White voice, but oh my goodness, I'm going to fall asleep if he doesn't start doing inflections in the way that he's speaking. Well, I do that a lot in the way I read, and I have fun with my kids. Thank you, Raquel, for joining and being part of the program as well. And I was just blown away hearing my 4-year-old say Rabbadash the ridiculous. And the reason why is because of the fact that I recognize and I'm watching as my girls are evolving through these stories, the circuits are connecting. And I think that we can reconnect them for you as well, too. I'm your host, Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom. Let's go to a break, and I'll talk to you beautiful people on the flip side. This election will be vital to the health and sustainability of our country. Our role from this day on could steer the election in either direction. Why? The way we treat one another. In John 13:35, Jesus says, "By this all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." We know that every election cycle brings out the worst in us. If there was ever a point for honesty, it is in how we act during election season. As much as we would want our candidate to win, attacking a person with contrary opinions only makes them determined to reject our point of view all the more. It may come off as ignorant from them, but we cannot claim innocence if we allow arrogance and disrespect to be the means in which we communicate with those who support the other party or other candidates. Our goal was and will never be to convert voters. Our role is to give them the information needed prior to them casting their vote. It is their choice and right of what they do with that information. Understand, more people are aware of the political corruption and hypocrisy than they wish or want to admit. So there's nothing for us to prove. Choose to be people who invoke change rather than people who irritate and strain. Dale Carnegie once wrote, "A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still." In other words, give people the room to make their own mistakes. Without seeing that they were wrong, they would be blind to see what is right. Remember, every soldier present and gone have fought for the right of every American citizen to vote their own conscience. To insult and ridicule people for exercising their liberty to vote for their candidate is to also desecrate the efforts, memories, and sacrifices made by our heroes for said liberty. Please, show respect. Our nation depends on it. Welcome back, everyone. This is Watson Prunier, your host of Battle for Freedom on Mojo 5 Radio, and I'm glad that you're joining me and you're talking to me today, or talking with me as we work through this whole process of Silence of the Lamb, short-circuited Americans. The reason why I say this, and I've gone down this thing here, is because of the fact that as I talk about the whole idea is how the lockdown and so much more has actually severed circuits, severed connections of habits and things that we have done. One of the things is done because we've broken routine, and it has physiologically altered us. It is physiologically ordered, because you have to understand, when we have a set pattern and we start doing things and we start deviating from that, even a small change, we struggle at times to basically struggle with this whole idea of moving forward and not being caught up with a lot of the we're just in a cluster. It's imagine. Well, no. See, for those of you, you're not in computers. You're not in IT. You never get a chance to see cables like in a server room, and just cables just mashed up everywhere. And sometimes you have to sit there finding time. Okay, you know what? I better yet. Those of you who have iPhones, and I don't know if you've had this problem, but it's always a problem that I have. I grab my earpods, not my pods, but just the regular earphones that you get with an iPhone. And I would turn around and I'd put them in my pocket. Now I just ball it up and put it in my pocket, right in there. But then all of a sudden, when you pull that, for some magical reason, when you pull the earbuds right back out of your pocket, all of a sudden you have this twist, you have this turn. It's like somehow some devilry that the earbuds have nothing better to do than to put themselves into this disgusting twist and knot that you spend 5 minutes untying your earphones so that you can actually put them in your ear and listen to your phone again. I don't know if you've experienced that, but I have. And most of those times it would short circuit me because of the fact that it would always be 30 seconds left before I have to connect with a meeting or talk to someone on the phone. And so I can't use the earbuds in the beginning because of the fact that I have to spend time untying the earbuds, the earphones, so that on my iPhone, so that I can actually have communication, or just listen to my music when I'm just sitting there or exercising, whatever it is. We're in that process right now that we have to untie, because there's a lot of cross cables, and there's like this connection mess, this nightmare of sorting out cables, sorting out everything, sorting out routines, because we have all technically been in a form of solitary confinement. We're all around each other. We're around our friends and family more than we've ever done before, but we're in a form of solitary confinement that's really stressing us out. And we need to figure out a way to recover from this. Why? Because the fact that it's not helping us to be always confined. And again, this article, and what's really good about this ACEDIA is because of the fact that it talks about the whole idea of early 5th century monk. Basically, his name is John Cassian, talked about this whole idea is the mind is seized by emotion, is horrified at where he is, disgusted with his room. It does not allow him to stay still in his cell or devote any time or effort to reading. Because you would think, okay, oh my goodness, I have time. I can get this done. This is great. I have more time for reading. I'm at home. Oh my goodness, I can do work projects. And the work projects are still there, right? You're like, moving. I have like 10 totes I need to go through, and I've opened them a couple of times for trying to find stuff that I need, but I haven't gone through them to actually weed out the stuff that I need and start clearing. And like, I can't have peace to know exactly where God's going to be moving us to until I start dumping a lot of the baggage that I have with me. And in this process of us slowing down, I know it was only supposed to be 2 weeks. It was only supposed to be 2 weeks where we're just going to flatten the curve, but it's not. The curve wasn't flattened. Our lives were flattened. Our lives were flattened. Our emotions were flattened. They were squished under the tyranny of government overreach and the idea and concept of protecting and saving lives, which could be better accomplished if you just isolate, and you basically isolate those who are sick rather than those who are healthy. But that's for another show, another time, and another tirade. Well, as we sit here, but many of you, I talked about this in the first segment, you're struggling. You're struggling. And yes, Renee, the shutdown of social interaction for a lot of people, especially those who work with the public. I've spoken to people. They need that interaction with their clients. They work retail and they miss that interaction with their client, whether they were selling food, selling clothes. It didn't matter. People, because we are created as social beings, sometimes it's not the touch of an individual. It's actually the experience of hearing, the audio experience. It's sometimes even the visual experience. They say that men are wired visually, that there are things that we can see, and our minds are like DVRs, and we record everything that we see. Well, now, mind you, you can only look through Netflix and Amazon and whatever services that you have for so long before it gets tiring of you looking at these things on the screen that are supposed to entertain you. Because of the unique paths that we took, because of the gridlock on the road where we went, even staring at a car that you've been traveling with, you've taken 10 minutes to go half of a mile because traffic is back to back. That car, that annoying vehicle that's right there next to you, it made so much of your day because there was something unique about that car, or the person who was in it, or something that someone in the other vehicle was saying, and there was something that was different about the experience, whether it was a hot sunny day and the air conditioning was busted, or it was a rainy day and you had your windshield wipers going at full because it couldn't keep up with the rain. Either way, these are some of the things that our minds were programmed to experience, and we also even look for those highs and lows in our days because of the fact that it was just the uniqueness and the authenticity of life. But we have now been shut down and put in this pocket and put in this box, and our whole reality is supposed to function inside of this box. It could be your home, it could be your apartment, but all of us are in a form of solitude. And as we're sitting here in this solitude, we're struggling to make the connections. We're struggling because we're desiring the social interaction. And again, there's something different about speaking to, yes, it's fun. I can talk to you guys through social media. I can respond to your comments here on social media. I can talk to you through Zoom and Teams sessions and meetings and everything like that. But nothing beats the amazing experience, the tactile and emotional experience of communicating with people out in the open air. I've ran into friends I hadn't seen in a couple months this past Sunday. It was so great to see them. And I sat there just like listening to each one of them just share information to help everybody out. I was like, I found myself just leaning forward and just enjoying every word that every person said. But it didn't hit me until today that I realized how much I valued their input and what they were sharing. When I drove to I will drive 50 minutes one way to my buddy's church on the southeast side outside of Indianapolis. Because the fact that going there and interacting with people there in the church is an amazing experience because of the fact it takes us all out. And I know it does a world of good for my wife and my kids that we get out and we interact with these beautiful people. And when we go to the store and when we go to, because Trader Joe's, where everybody knows your name. Well, there's great people that we know at Trader Joe's that we can communicate and have a discussion with. And it's wonderful because it's not about being busy, but it's about connecting with our humanity. And so when I sit here, someone shared something earlier today that I like, okay, this image here, I'm gonna share this with you. This one is it's funny and sad, and actually, in a way, this image that I'm about to share with you. Those of you, again, I'm sorry if you're following this if you're listening on the car radio. I'm going to describe this to you of this image I'm about to show. It's a picture. It's an image of you remember when we had these soldiers who lifted the flag. It's one of those monumental. Was it the Iwo Jima? I'm trying to remember if this was what it was, but either way, the mounting of the multiple soldiers mounting this flag, and we always look at it as liberty being represented through battle, through thick and thin, no matter what it is. Liberty rises. Our valiant soldiers win the day, and they establish the presence of American liberty and freedom around the world. It doesn't matter where it is. But this picture shows it's a statue of Joe Biden. It's a statue of Joe Biden is replacing the flag. And the soldiers are labeled as NBC, Fox News, CBS, ABC, NPR, CNN, and MSNBC. And as you sit there and you look at this image, you're thinking like, wow, yeah, that's exactly what's happening, that the media has propped up Joe Biden. And they have basically kept his campaign. They kept his existence alive and they've done everything to lay nukes, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, on the president of the United States of America ever since the moment he was elected 4 years ago. And so when you sit here and you watch this, as annoying as that is, I think we need to take a model from what the media is doing. I think we need to take a model from what the media is doing and how we interact on helping and lifting everyone up, lifting people up. There are people who need us to come underneath them, like these soldiers, lifting up the flag, like the media, lifting up Joe Biden. That we have to do this in this process, in this time that we have basically been shuttered down, and we can't do anything. God is basically saying, look at the people who matter in your life, and how do you lift them up? How do you come alongside them and you support what they're doing, and just don't let them topple over. Now, mind you, he's not, because ultimately, again, I have to reiterate this. The Word of God is the only true foundation that we have in terms of not falling over, not teetering, or anything like that. That relationship with God, understanding who He is, how fallen and broken and sinful we are, how we couldn't be redeemed back to God except through the blood of Jesus Christ, except His sacrifice, Him dying on the cross for our sins, bringing us back into the most secure, safe relationship that you have in existence, and that's your relationship with your Creator. Now, does this mean that there won't be challenges? Does it mean that there won't be strains? Does that mean that there won't be attempts at short-circuiting life and things like that? Yeah, you might experience a short circuit, but again, deal with the master electrician called God, who can basically pull out the solder and use the soldering power of the Holy Spirit and reconnect you back to the way that you need to be. Spirit of God heals us and allows us to recover in the midst of all this insanity that is driving us up the wall. We can't understand. And see, and so as I share all this stuff with you guys, okay, I'm close. And listen here. You know how you're frustrated that people don't want to fight? They're short-circuited. You know how people are not responding to the truth? They're short-circuited. You know how it makes you mad that you want to fix the problems, the clear corruption that happened last week, that millions of Americans don't care. They either don't care, they're happy with it, or they can't even process what's going on. They're short-circuited. We're about to fight our neighbors. We're about to fight our family members. We're about to fight our coworkers who are all short-circuited. And we are suffering a little short circuit ourselves. That when we sit here and, yes, it is hilarious that in this weekend, the left, who spent the last 4 years trying to delegitimize the presidency of Donald J. Trump, they've basically insulted Trump supporters. They insulted conservatives. And if you're a black conservative, holy moly guacamole, are you insulted out to wazoo? You're a traitor. You're a traitor to your race. You're a sellout. You're an Uncle Tom. Okay? And you sit here and you're trying to make sense as to what in the world is going on. But now all of a sudden they want kumbaya. Let's put our fingers together. Let's lock arms and let be merriment and happiness. And let's have unity in this country right now. They have the nerve to ask for unity after spending 4 years trying to disrupt this administration, this president, and the country moving forward. I'm not going to lie to you. It makes absolute sense. Hypocrisy is the biggest sign of a broken circuit. Hypocrisy is the biggest sign of a broken circuit. There's a short in the circuit. And so what are the things that you'll see? Because again, I love working with electronics, and you're looking at. You look at the circuit board, and normally there's like a copper line, or you'll see the lines connected and everything like that. And when usually there's a short, you can actually see that there's a sever of the connection on the circuit board, and you have to put a conduit, a metal, something that can allow the electricity and the signal to flow back on the area. Now, and mind you too, there's usually like some black smoke, like there was a burnout around the area where things will blow up and the connection has broken. So you either have to solder a new component back on. You have to basically reconnect that so that everyone can, things can keep flowing. Yes, D, we have to fight for our country. The problem is, and this is where I get back to where I talk about the idea of us. Yeah, we're going to be dealing with 4 years of absolute hate under this under a Joe Biden administration. The people who are now clamoring for unity and everything like that have done everything not to be unified. They've done everything. They've insulted us. They've insulted every last one of us. And yes, Carrie, I love this. And let's be clear: if you are a true Christian, hate is not in your heart. I've seen that word a lot with my friends on the Democrat side. Yes, they're on the Democrat side, but honestly, let's be honest and truthful about this. Many of us Republicans have been hateful as well too. Many of us conservatives, many of us libertarians, many of us constitutionalists, we have been hateful as well too. Now, maybe it may have not manifested itself on social media, but it's manifested itself in our hearts, and God sees it. Jeremiah 17:9, the heart is deceitfully wicked beyond all measure. Who can know it? Verse 10, I, the Lord, search the heart. The Lord knows exactly what's going on here. And when we sit here and we have to reconnect, we have to do this the right way. Yeah, we're going to fight. We're going to fight. But I have to let you understand that sometimes, you remember drones. Drones are just computers they're the machines that fly to from point A to point B. You remember how sometimes a drone can actually experience a short in the circuit. They experience some kind of failure to actually function at its peak efficiency, and that drone can go off course. Look at Tesla vehicles. When the Tesla vehicle doesn't always respond the way it needs to when it's being summoned and everything like that, there was a short, there was a disconnection, there was some kind of interruption in the function of that vehicle to do what it needs to function as an autonomous or autonomous vehicle that would basically come to and fro on command. Well, one of the things that's going to connect on here is, once the circuit is working properly, that Tesla vehicle works fine. And I like this, what you're saying here, D. If he ends up being president, God will reveal the evil, and he will be glorified. God will be glorified. Why? Is because of the fact that in that process, do you realize, as we slow down in the midst of all the stuff, and we are basically be still, know he's God, and that God is using this shutdown and using COVID to calm us down and get us reconnected back to him. God is actually repairing our circuit boards that connect. Because of the fact that if we have shorts in our circuit and we don't have our power connected, we don't have a connection to the power source, we don't function correctly. We behave different than we were programmed to do. And in that process too, yes, D, and this is the part that I don't like. This is the blue screen of death. Oh my goodness, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. The blue screen of death. Oh, that's oh yes, that's exactly what it's going to be. The blue screen of death for the next 4 years. Oh my goodness, that's so precious. I love that. That's great. I'm gonna have to trade that. That has to be a meme sometime today. In this process, when you sit here and you talk about the whole idea that he will be glorified, the evil will be revealed. What's really amazing about this is God's going to rewire us in the midst of this pain, in the midst of the short circuits that we experience in life, in the midst of the oppression that's to come. See, Christians, we here in America, we have no idea what persecution's like. We have no idea what it's like to basically be closed up in a building in Africa, in a church in Africa, and basically have soldiers surrounding it with AK-47s and telling us, renounce your faith or you will die. Convert to Islam or you will die. We don't have that experience here in the United States of America. There's been a couple of American citizens beheaded in this country because of followers of Islam, but we have not experienced the persecution that our brothers and sisters in Christ. We haven't been. You know what? I will say this much: we have been in re-education camps called public schooling and higher education at times, but we have not experienced what our not every public school, not every higher education is conforming to the idea of rewiring us incorrectly. But we're going to be rewired in a way that it needs to happen. I'm sharing this with you because of the fact that we're going to fight, but I need you to understand who you're fighting. I asked this question last week: who are you fighting? What are we fighting? I'm defining who and what you're fighting. You're fighting broken circuits. There's a big broken circuit to this thing called liberty here in America because socialism is coming in. Socialism is basically going to sever every connection in the series and parallel circuit. It's going to destroy the power. The diodes are going to go on. The capacitor is going to be blown, and no LED will have any source of light. It will fade away into non-existence. The electrical series, the electrical currents will cease to exist because socialism is that destruction to the idea of this republic the idea of this land that we appreciate and are blessed to be part of, and blessed to be born on this American soil, or even those people like First Lady Melania Trump, who actually went through the process of filing out her paperwork to become an American citizen. We're fighting this. So socialism is the destructive tool that breaks the circuit board called liberty in America. Communism, liberal progressivism, Satanism. These are the different things. We have. I sit here. We want to fight. We want to engage. You have to understand something here, that there are people who. I want to do this quickly here. There are people who embrace ideologies, ways of thinking in this country right now that are short-circuited, and we have to understand. You just don't basically go in hammering on the circuit. You have to bring the tools. You have to bring the tools to reconnect all the connections and where everything has been severed. You have to bring the healing. Many of us need to get into that first aid. We can't. You can't reach people flying around on your magic carpet. We have to be true examples of Christ's love. Now, understand this: Christ's love doesn't always constitute itself as I'm going to be quiet and I'm not going to say anything. Christ's love requires prayer, and Christ's love also requires us getting involved and interacting. It's just how we do it is the question of, is it connected? Is it in the direction of where God has called us to do? Because I believe that we are supposed to be engaged in the nightmare that's taking place in our country right now. But let us approach this in a different way. When we try to help people, let's understand that they're broken circuits like we're broken circuits. And we need the master electrician called God, who is named God, who is Yahweh, who's the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, who has existed before, and long after. Everything here passes away. We have to make that reconnection back to the power source called God. It doesn't matter what wattage, what ampage you're using, as long as God is the power source. I don't care if you're in Europe or you're in the United States of America. If you're 120 volts or you're 220, 240, doesn't matter. The connection source power is God. And we have to figure out allowing God to reconnect that person back into the proper circuit. I want to show something with you. This was really powerful here that I saw. We will engage the people who are lost. We will engage. We will fight. But let's make certain that we understand that we're bringing the right tools to this battle. It may not always be a sword. It may not always be a musket. It may not always be an AR. It could actually be a soldering iron. It could actually be a soldering iron, and I want you to consider that. I found this thing on here on Facebook, and this was really powerful. This young lady. This was about a young lady who had suffered dementia. And what happened was she was fed music to, figure out a way to, this was a ballerina. This is someone who loved dancing. This is something that was part of her life. And look at how just the idea of what she's done all her life. Sometimes all it is just feeding the right energy, the right signal into our lives that reawakens even the most lifeless body back into what they love to do, the creativity, the love, the power, and how we could be something so simple as a woman hearing Swan Lake, someone who was a ballerina, and hearing Swan Lake had awakened in her body. Someone, you remember, she was lifeless before the music turned on. When I would talk about an attitude of gratitude, it's for stories like this where you can see someone who had no purpose in the beginning, and then hearing the right signals, hearing the music, hearing this amazing song, this classical piece of work has strengthened and woken this person. as you sit here and you recognize every last one of us are those people that we're that connection that God is using for us to awaken the soul, awaken the spirit, awaken that life. You see, you're going to go to battle, but you're going to bring some people with you. But those people need to be healed. Those people need to be awakened. Those people need to be reconnected back to life. So many people have been suffering because of this lockdown, and God has put us in a position to bring healing into the lives of people, reconnect them with the master electrician, and really see their lives start to spark and come to life. I'm your host, Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom on Mojo Fiber Radio. I appreciate every last one of you. You are awesome, beautiful people. Be blessed. Enjoy Brad Stagson's Daily Mojo coming up next. For now, I'm going to tune out and get reconnected with my family, my job, and the world. Love you. Take care. God bless.